It's the 2022 World Cup. It's Cameroon's players. Hello and welcome to the International Soccer Preview by Soccerphiles Canada. I'm Kevin, and today we'll be looking at Cameroon's squad for the 2022 World Cup. Short version, please. Okay, now we're going to spend a little bit of time discussing the squad as a whole. So we'll kind of refer back to some of the things we said last time in our takeaways from the previous podcast. So here again, we got to notice that there's very few players who played before 2017, and even a lot of the players on the 2017 title-winning squad have moved on. And so I'd say more than half of the players that we consider top candidates for reaching this cup started from 2019 onwards. So they're really doing a lot of rebuilding. We even saw in the last 3 games that they're bringing new players in and trying them out. So not the kind of the solid squad who've been playing together for a long time, like Senegal, but rather a bit of a rebuilding squad. And I gotta say, what they have built doesn't seem particularly strong. They failed to reach the World Cup in 2018, and it was a round of 16 finish in the 29 African Cup. Third place in 2021 was better as host, and qualifying for this cup was good over Algeria in those final playoff games. So perhaps it's building in a good way, but I gotta say it doesn't seem as strong as, say, a Senegal team. So I'm gonna be bold and just say that you never know, when the cup comes around, they could turn out to be better than they were in the build up to the cup. But not the strongest squad. And finally, we notice that there are a lot of players coded in central positions. And so it's ironic, actually, that Cameroon goes with 4 midfielders almost all the time, which is a formation that uses the wings more. So that means players coded as central players are playing out on the wings. But this turns out to be mostly the forwards coming back to play as wingers, or if they move to a different formation, sometimes as outside forwards. Because Cameroon is fundamentally an attacking team. So forwards playing as wingers. Okay, let's take a look at some of the other information. So in terms of club affiliation, I would say not nearly the club affiliations that Senegal and Morocco have for this World Cup, but they are with a few decent teams. We've seen Bayern Munich mentioned, and then a lot of respectable European teams like Inter Milan, Olympiacos, Lyon, Napoli, Bordeaux, stuff like that. But I'd say half the players or more play for kind of more middle-level European teams like Middlesbrough, Hanover, Ghent, and Young Boys, to name a few. And they also have a few players playing outside of Europe, none of them actually playing Cameroon. We did see the one player playing in Africa for Congo DR's top team, Vita. But we have 4 players playing in Saudi Arabia and 2 players playing in the US, although they are with top teams in the US, Seattle Sounders and Philadelphia. And then we saw Basagog plays in China. Okay, so I would say club affiliations not as good as some of the other African teams who made the cup, but certainly not bad. Age and experience. Well, I'm currently putting together a document kind of as I go through the teams. I'm building the document, so I'm getting an average. And what I'm doing for that is basically taking the players who are definite, likely, and possible, and kind of compiling them into an Excel sheet and working out a little bit of data from that. So we have the average age of Cameroon as 26.8, and I've only done the African teams so far, but the average seems to be in the average range. The average seems to be around 26 or 27, so they're kind of bang on average there. And I'm not even sure how significant this information is. Average caps is 24.2, and that is actually lower than average. And that kind of makes sense with whatever transition they went through in 2017. Few of the veterans survived it. So most of the players have earned their caps from 2017 onwards, and a good number of them from 2019 onwards. So no surprise that it's a little bit below average there. And I also did, just for fun, total goals. So among them, Cameroon has 89 goals. I said they were a scoring team, and it turns out to be that way, because among the players who are being considered for the squad, they have 89 goals, and the average is really in the low 80s, so a bit higher than average there. Again, for what it's worth. And I'll talk about the percentage of goals for the scorers pretty soon here. Okay, so as far as players to watch, there's really no outstanding player in defense, but they do have a couple of some of their more steady players are Onana in goal, and Ngadjue in central defense, and Collins Fay in right defense. Although he's actually not that fairly new to the position. But and then a couple of players who seem to have established themselves there, Castelletto and Tolo. But they do seem to be kind of sticking with those players quite a bit. And Umguet too plays as a stopper when it's a 4-1-4-1. So a solid defense there that seems to be playing together most of the time, although they're not a fortress. Maybe they will become more of a fortress as they play together more, rather than being a defensive team. They are more of an attacking team, as we saw with the goals they have. So I'm going to say they're a scoring team. And just to give you an overview of their percentages here, Vincent Aboubakar has really impressive stats. Sorry, I'm just finding it here. Vincent Aboubakar, 33 goals in 87 games. That is a percentage of 37.9%, 38%. Few forwards in the world can boast a percentage like that for their national team. So that's pretty impressive. The next highest, to my surprise, is Choupo-Moting, who has 18 goals in 68 games. That's 27%, which I don't view him as much of a scorer as Karl Toko Ekambi, but Ekambi has 22%, which is still pretty good. And then they, besides that, have two other players above 15% in Basagog and Bahoken, and two players above 10% in Ngamalu, and surprisingly in Zambo Anguissa, who in my mind is more of a defensive player, but he has, he has 5 goals in 42 games, so slightly above 10%. That's pretty good for a central player. So look out, especially I would say Vincent Aboubakar and Karl Toko Ekambo. Look out for them as scorers. But it seems like when Choupo-Moting gets on the field, he does pretty well. We'll just look at a couple of their new names. So Rigobert Song is their new manager. And this may be a bit of a concern in defence because the two goalkeepers, Davis Ipasi and Simon Omasola, they're the two likely goalkeepers behind Andre Onana, and they have just 8 caps between them. So fairly inexperienced goalies. I wonder if they should. I wondered actually, even when I was going over it, if they were going to consider, bringing Fabrice Ondoa, because he's not actually that old, and he has a lot more experience. So it might be good for them to bring a bit of a more experienced goalkeeper there. And nevertheless, in terms of players who played recently, it looks like Ipasi and Omasola are the two most likely candidates to bring to the squad. Yes, okay. Continuing on with new players. In the central defence, we have Christopher Wu. So I think they'll bring him because they're a bit short of central defenders. Defensive midfielder Gael Ndua seems to be getting game time and working his way into the squad. He's not actually young. He's 27, but he has just 3 caps. So with new players, I'm looking at young players, but also new to the team. Gene Onana, I should say, is young. He's 22 and has 9 caps, so is working his way onto the squad. He's a central midfielder. Right winger Kevin Soni seems to be making his way into the squad. He's 24 and has played all 3 of their recent games. And forward Duplex Tchamba has been trying to work his way onto the squad for quite a while, 24 years, but maybe getting his chance here. 24 years old and has earned only 2 caps, but maybe we consider him a possible candidate along with most of the other ones we've mentioned here, except for Gael Ndua, who we consider a likely candidate. Okay, in terms of injuries, we don't have anyone who's injured, and if anyone gets injured from now to the Cup, we will cover that in our update podcast. And in terms of notable absences, honestly, I would say Joel Matip is the only noticeable absence, but he's been absent for so long. I'm sure they'll try to get him once again, but he's been saying no, apparently. And then we did mention Banana Yaya and George Manjek, but that was more in terms of them having left holes, actually. Banana Yaya just popped up in 2019 and went as quickly as he came. George Manjek is a bit more of a veteran that they've lost, but they lost him before the 2021 African Cup. So we'll go over the list one more time here. So we have, for YouTube watchers, we've highlighted the starters, the players we think are starting in green, and the players we think are likely, will be more backup players in blue, but both of them we think are either definite or likely to make the team. So we start with Rigobert Song, who replaced Tony Concheco as the manager and will lead them through the Cup. The definite candidate for goalie is Andre Onana, and in central defense we have Michael Ngaju and Jean-Charles Castanello, who seems to have nailed down the spot of central defender there. Left back on Nuhu Tolo and Ambrose Oyongo, providing a bit of a challenge for that spot, but it seems to be Tolo's for now. And there's less of a challenge to Faye Collins as the starting right back. So the 4 defenders there. In the midfield, the general or versatile midfielder, Andre Zambo Anguissa, is a definite. And among defensive midfielders, there's no definite starter. Actually, Samuel Umguet, who's coded as a central midfielder, is more defensive and more definite. But Martin Hongla and Gael Ndua are likely to make the team, but as substitutes. I'm supposed to be doing just starters here. So central midfielder Samuel Umguet is definite. And among left midfielders and right midfielders and left wingers and right wingers, there are none who are even in the picture, to be honest, or who are likely to make the squad. We have a few names in the picture that we went over in the podcast, but none of them seem to have a good chance of making it. Attacking midfielder, we don't have any definite starters, but Eric Maxim Choupo-Moting is close, but because we're not sure, we have listed him as more of a backup player, but he will probably start some games. However, forwards Vincent Abubakar and Carl Toko Ikambi are they're almost certain to start, and probably Nicholas or Mumi Ngamalu, probably a starter there too. And then a lot of other candidates as forwards, and a couple of them will probably be chosen for the cup, but we'll have to wait to see. All right, well, that brings us to the end of this podcast. Keep in mind that we'll be doing an update as soon as new information comes out. No, it won't be as soon as new information comes out. It'll probably be in November when we know who the final squad will be. And as I say, that'll probably be in November after the teams have published their player lists. Meanwhile, keep an eye on us at Soccerphiles Canada. Not only are we going to do podcasts for teams, but we're also going to do a shorter version, because we know not everyone will want this long version. So just keep an eye on the website and you'll find whatever versions that we do, and you can listen to the ones that seem interesting. So that's Soccerphiles Canada. That's Soccerphiles with a PH in the middle and an S at the end. And you can visit our website at soccerphiles.captivate.fm, and all this information and more will be in the show notes. So thanks very much for listening, and we hope you will listen to future podcasts. Bye-bye.